The afternoon sun streams through the windows of the small, tidy schoolhouse. Annelise, the town's schoolteacher, a woman of slender grace and quiet dignity, stands at the blackboard, her long fingers smudged with chalk dust. Her world is one of order and routine, of well-worn books and the polite, distant respect of the townspeople. She is a woman on an island, a respected outsider in a community of tight-knit families. She is 28, a spinster in a world that has already begun to close its doors on her. A large shadow falls over the doorway, blocking the light. The children, packed up and ready to leave, go silent. Gideon, the town's most successful rancher, fills the frame. He is a giant of a man, a physical force of nature, with a square jaw and hands as thick as anvils. His presence is not one of malice, but of immense, silent power. The town sees him as an extension of his vast, empty ranch, successful, solitary, and a little terrifying. He rarely comes to town, let alone the schoolhouse. He walks to the front of the room, his boots thudding softly on the wooden floor. He doesn't look at the children, or at Annelise's neatly arranged books. He looks at her, a direct, unwavering gaze that holds no affection, only purpose. The town children stare in wide-eyed silence. Annelise turns to face him, her heart thumping a nervous, uneven rhythm against her ribs. Gideon. His voice is a low rumble, devoid of any romance or pretense. "Ma'am, my name is Gideon. I have a ranch that stretches for 1,000 acres, and enough cattle to make me a wealthy man. The ranch needs a woman's touch to make it a home. It needs a future." He pauses, his gaze sweeping over her, assessing her like he would a new piece of equipment. It is not lewd, but utterly, shockingly impersonal. "Gideon, my first wife died. This ranch needs strong sons, and you are respectable and alone. The town sees you as a teacher, not a woman, and your time for a family is running out. You need a home and the protection of a husband. This is a good deal for both of us." The silence that follows is deafening. The children exchange scandalized whispers. Annelise's face flushes with a mixture of shock and profound humiliation. This is not a proposal. It is a declaration of need. A cold business proposition laid bare in front of a dozen small faces. She wants to be angry, wants to reject him with the dignified fury he deserves. But a quiet, devastating truth echoes his words. He is right. She is respectable, and she is alone. Her tidy schoolhouse is a respectable cage. Her future is a one-room home and a life without family. He has offered her a desperate escape. She looks at him, not at his powerful hands or his gruff demeanor, but at the deep-set loneliness in his eyes, a loneliness that mirrors her own. He is not a monster. He is simply a man who has lost everything but his work, and is now trying to rebuild on a foundation of pragmatism. A single, life-altering choice hangs in the air. She straightens her shoulders, her chin lifting with a new resolve. This is not a romantic surrender, but a calculated survival. She chooses him, not for love, but for a future. Annelise. Her voice is quiet but firm, a stark contrast to his. "Mr. Gideon, I accept your proposition." The children gasp. The town, when word spreads, is scandalized. A week later, they are married by the circuit judge. The ceremony is brief, perfunctory, and entirely devoid of joy. The scene shifts to the vast, empty ranch. The house is massive, a monument to Gideon's success, but it is also a dusty, soulless place. Annelise walks into her new home, her few bags of belongings clutched in her hand. The place is neat but Spartan, built for a man who saw no need for comfort. Her tidy, organized world has been replaced by this monument to function. She feels like a ghost walking into a tomb. Gideon shows her around with a gruff efficiency, pointing out the kitchen, the pantry, the bedroom. His words are clipped, focused on logistics, not shared space. The bedroom, their bedroom, has a large, unmade bed and a single, well-worn chest of drawers. He stands at the doorway, a respectful but insurmountable distance between them. She is a new part of the ranch's functioning, a new set of hands for a new purpose. Gideon saw Annelise as a solution to a problem, a respectable, capable woman to bring order to his life and heirs to his land. He did not see the quiet tears she shed at night, not for loneliness, but for the profound coldness of their arrangement. He respected her, provided for her, but did not see her as a person. He saw her as a wife, the function, not Annelise, the woman. Annelise spends the next days trying to bring order to the chaos. She dusts shelves, cleans years of grime from the windows, and organizes the pantry with a desperate, frantic energy. It is a way to claim a small piece of this overwhelming place. Gideon, for his part, keeps his distance. He leaves before sunrise, returns long after sunset, a silent force that plows the land. He does not ask what she needs, he simply provides. He leaves a sack of flour and a side of bacon on the kitchen table without a word. She is his wife, but she feels more like an unwelcome guest, a temporary worker hired to perform a task. The deal has been struck, the marriage has been made, but they are still two lonely souls living in separate, silent worlds beneath the same roof. The deal is a reality, but the marriage is an empty space between them. The dusty silence of the ranch house has been replaced by the quiet sounds of two people living separate lives in close proximity. The rhythm of their days is a study in contrast. Gideon leaves at dawn, a silent force plowing the endless fields, his existence defined by the earth and its needs. Annelise remains within the house, bringing her own brand of order to its dusty corners. She is a woman of small, deliberate movements. Her life now a cycle of dusting, cooking, and waiting. The space between them is not hostile, but it is vast and empty, a silent tribute to their pragmatic arrangement. One afternoon, a stubborn, late-season cold front rolls in, bringing a chilling wind. Annelise, her hands red and chapped from the cold, tries to light the old wood-burning stove in the kitchen. She has read about how to do it in her books, but the reality is far more difficult. The kindling is damp, the draft is poor, and the wood, heavy and cumbersome, is too much for her to handle. Frustrated, a small, quiet tear of defeat rolls down her cheek. She feels a profound sense of uselessness. She is a teacher of words, but this new world of physical reality is a language she does not speak. She doesn't see Gideon standing in the doorway, his immense frame blocking the light, watching her struggle. He does not speak. He does not take over. He simply walks to her, his shadow falling over her small form. He kneels, his massive hands calloused and scarred, looking out of place in the clean kitchen. He takes a piece of kindling and gently pushes her slender, inky fingers aside. He doesn't grab the wood from her, but instead, he points, a silent instruction. He carefully places two larger logs in a particular way, creating a space for air to move. He takes a small, dry piece of kindling and, with a precision that belies his size, he lights it. He watches it catch, then gently blows on it, coaxing a flame into existence. Only when a steady fire is going does he finally speak. Gideon, the trick ain't just the fire, it's the air, like a man needs a place to breathe. He says it without looking at her, his voice a low rumble. Annelise is stunned. He has not only fixed the problem, but he has taught her how to do it herself. She sees that his hands, which could so easily crush, are capable of immense gentleness. She sees a quiet patience she never expected. He is not just brawn, he is a man of practical wisdom, a craftsman of the earth. The wall of silence between them cracks a tiny bit. Gideon saw Annelise's struggle not as a failure, but as a lack of knowledge, a puzzle to be solved. He did not see her as weak. He saw the same fierce desire for order and competence in her that he possessed in the fields, and for the first time, he found himself admiring the determination in her eyes, a reflection of his own stubborn will. He had seen a delicate woman, but now he saw a woman of immense strength, learning the language of his world. A few evenings later, the roles are reversed. The house is quiet, filled with the warmth of the now cooperating stove. Annelise is reading a book by the fire. Gideon sits at the large kitchen table, a dense, official-looking letter from a land agent spread out before him. His brow is furrowed in frustration. He traces a line of text with a thick finger, his lips moving silently, struggling with words he cannot decipher. His strength has been built on the land, not on books, and this world of abstract words is a foreign country to him. He groans in quiet frustration, wadding the paper up slightly. He is a giant, but in this moment, he looks like a lost child. Annelise, without a word, puts down her book and walks over to the table. She does not take the letter from him. She simply sits down across from him, her posture respectful, her presence a quiet offering. She waits until he looks at her, his eyes filled with a flicker of shame and guarded pride. She speaks softly, her voice an educated grace note in his silent, dusty world. Annelise, if you would like, Mr. Gideon, I could read that for you. He looks at her slender, inky fingers, and her intelligent, unassuming face. He sees no pity there, only a genuine offer of help, a kindness offered in return for the kindness he had shown her with the stove. He nods slowly, his pride yielding to his need. He slides the letter across the table. She begins to read. Her voice, clear and precise, brings the complex legalistic language of the land agent's letter to life. She reads about acreage, about water rights, about an abstract world he struggles to grasp. She doesn't just read the words. She explains them, breaking down the complex terms into simple, understandable concepts. He listens, his large hands resting on the table, his head slightly tilted. He learns more from her in 10 minutes than he could from a day of squinting at the page. The letter, once a source of frustration, becomes a clear path forward, thanks to her. Annelise saw Gideon's struggle not as a weakness, but as a simple human vulnerability. She saw that his strength was not boundless, that even a man who could tame the earth could be baffled by a simple piece of paper. The giant who had once seemed like a force of nature was, in fact, a man who had his own private struggles, his own quiet needs. She no longer saw him as just a cowboy. She saw him as a person. The rigid structure of her world, the knowledge in her books, had found a purpose beyond her schoolhouse, a way to build a bridge to this silent, magnificent man. That night, Annelise sits on the edge of the bed, feeling a strange new warmth. The awkwardness is still there, but it is no longer cold. There is a sense of something shared. Gideon, in the corner, is struggling to unlatch a high window that won't budge. He is a man who can fix a fence and break a horse, but this tiny, stubborn piece of metal is giving him trouble. Annelise, her heart a little softer, gestures for him to stop. She takes a hairpin from her neatly pinned hair. With a few deft, quiet movements, she slips the hairpin into the latch. With a small click, the window pops open. He looks at her, a flicker of surprise in his eyes, and a small, almost imperceptible smile touches the corner of his mouth. She, the woman of words, has brought a new kind of ingenuity into his world. He had taught her his language, and she, in a tiny, quiet way, had just taught him a bit of hers. Later, after she has fallen asleep, Gideon sits by the fire, a new thought in his mind. He thinks of her books, lined up on a single shelf. He thinks of how her books, her world of words, have no proper home here. His ranch is built on practicality, not on fragile paper. He rises silently. With a few tools, his immense hands, once a source of terror to her, begin to work. He uses old planks of timber, sanding them smooth, and measuring with a patient, practiced eye. By the time the sun rises, he has built a small, sturdy bookshelf in the corner of the living room, a proper home for her books. It is not romantic, not yet, but it is an act of profound respect. He is a man who provides. She needs a home for her books. He built it. The deal is beginning to blur. It is not about his needs or her needs anymore. It is about their own quiet, unspoken acknowledgement of each other. The silence is no longer empty. It is a space where a new kind of conversation is beginning. The weather has turned with a vicious, sudden speed. What began as a light snowfall has become a full-blown blizzard, a swirling white chaos that has swallowed the vast ranch. Inside the house, the atmosphere is tense but not panicked. The bookshelf Gideon built stands proud in the corner, a silent testament to their newfound respect. Annelise, her face pale but calm, moves with purpose, checking the pantry's stock. Gideon, meanwhile, stands at the window, his immense frame blocking the light, watching the storm with a practiced, weary eye. The house is a fragile island in a sea of blinding white. The unspoken agreement has changed. They are no longer two separate souls in a house, but two people trapped together against a common enemy. Gideon saw the blizzard not just as a storm, but as a test of his strength, his endurance, his very ability to keep his ranch alive. But for the first time, he was not facing it alone. He felt a fierce, protective instinct, not just for his livestock, but for the quiet, capable woman who was now his wife. He thought of her small, warm hands, of her sharp mind, and for the first time, he understood that her strength was not a distraction from his own, but a force that could make them both stronger. The wind howls, a terrifying sound that rattles the house to its foundation. Gideon turns from the window, his face grim. The sound of the cattle, a low, panicked moaning, can be heard even over the storm. He knows what that sound means. The blizzard is too fierce. He must check on them. Annelise, her arms wrapped around herself, sees the look in his eyes. She doesn't have to ask. She knows what he's about to do. Annelise, Gideon, you can't. The wind. It's a whiteout. You won't make it to the barn. Her voice, usually so calm, is tinged with a fear she can't hide. It's the first time she has ever used his given name. Gideon turns to her, and for the first time, their eyes truly meet. The distance between them has vanished. Gideon, I have to, Annelise. They'll freeze. The heifers. They're carrying new calves. He says it not with gruffness, but with a simple, honest truth. It's a risk he must take. Annelise, however, is a woman of logic and planning. She is not helpless. She looks at the window, then at a pile of heavy blankets she has already brought out. Annelise, wait. Don't go out in that. Not yet. The wind is coming from the north. The barn, the west wall, has that loose plank. We must reinforce it first. It's the most vulnerable point. Gideon stares at her, astonished. He had forgotten about the plank. He is a man who deals with grand problems, not small details. Her intelligence, her quiet observation, is the very thing that might save them. He grabs his heaviest coat, and without another word, she follows him, pulling a thick shawl over her head. They are not equals in strength, but in this moment, they are a team. He has the brute force. She has the knowledge of the weak point. They are two parts of a single, desperate plan. They fight through the storm together, leaning into the wind. He leads, his immense body breaking the force of the wind, his hand gripping her arm. She, in turn, points the way, her smaller frame navigating the shifting, treacherous snow. They reach the barn, their faces numb with cold. He secures the plank with a few powerful blows from a sledgehammer, while she holds a lantern, her light a beacon of hope in the overwhelming darkness. Her intellect and his brawn have just saved the livestock. They are exhausted but exhilarated, two separate worlds united by a single, desperate purpose. They return to the house, collapsing in front of the roaring fire. The crisis is past, but the walls between them, so carefully built over years of solitude, are gone. The cold, the physical exhaustion, and the shared terror have stripped them of all pretense. Annelise looks at his face, at the small cut on his cheek from a splinter, and reaches out, her hand gently touching the wound. Her touch, so simple, is an act of profound intimacy. Annelise, I was so afraid. When you went out there, I thought. Her voice trails off, trembling with a vulnerability she has never shown. Gideon's gaze, usually so hard and distant, is now soft, tender. He takes her hand in his, and for the first time, he speaks not with pragmatism, but with a raw, emotional honesty. Gideon, I was afraid too. I didn't want to lose you. I can't imagine this place without you now. His words hang in the air, a confession that shatters the silence of their arrangement. The deal is over. The reality is love. He pulls her gently to him. Their first kiss is not a perfunctory peck, but a deep, passionate union born of fear, of relief, of a partnership forged in fire and ice. It is the beginning of their true marriage. It is the answer to all the silent questions, the lonely nights, the unspoken fears. It is the soul of their union, finally made real. That night, they lie together in the immense, creaking bed, the sound of the wind now a gentle lullaby. Their embrace is not one of duty, but of quiet affection, a shared warmth against the cold. He holds her close, his arms a strong, protective cage. She rests her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. She is no longer alone. He is no longer empty. The vast, empty ranch, once a monument to his solitude, is now a sanctuary for their love. The deal is done. The true marriage has begun. The screen opens to the Gideon ranch. But it is no longer the vast, desolate place from the beginning. A year has passed. The fields are lush and green, thanks to a new irrigation system they designed together. The fences are sturdy and well kept. The house, once a monument to a lonely man's success, now feels like a warm, lived-in home. Flowers bloom in a small pot on the porch. A sturdy, polished rocking chair sits where an old, broken one once stood. Inside, the bookshelves Gideon built now overflow with books, and the walls are adorned with Annelise's framed drawings of the local flora and fauna. The house is a testament to the beautiful, practical, and emotional union of two people. Gideon sits at the large kitchen table, his immense hands carefully whittling a small wooden horse. His movements are slow and deliberate, filled with a newfound tenderness. The cold, silent man is gone, replaced by a gentle giant. He looks up as Annelise enters the room. She is glowing, her face radiant with a happiness that goes beyond the joy of a good life. She is heavily pregnant, her hands resting on her swollen belly with a quiet, maternal pride. The deal has been fulfilled, and then some. The strong son he asked for is on the way. Annelise: "It's a beautiful afternoon, Gideon. The best time for a walk." He smiles at her, a genuine, joyful expression that transforms his rugged face. He sets his whittling aside, his attention completely on her. "Gideon, can't have you walking alone, not these days." He rises, walking over to her and placing a hand on the small of her back with a protective care that speaks volumes. They walk together onto the porch, their steps a peaceful, familiar rhythm. They sit on the rocking chair, a quiet domestic scene that a year ago would have been impossible. Annelise had come to this ranch, seeking a home and a future. She had found a house of wood and stone, but she had built a home of love and partnership. The cold deal she had made had blossomed into a warmth she never knew she could possess. She was no longer a respectable spinster, alone and on the outside. She was a woman loved, a mother-to-be, and a partner in a life she had helped build with her own two hands and brilliant mind. She looked at Gideon not as a gruff cowboy, but as the kind and gentleman she had come to know, a man who saw her, truly saw her, for the first time in their lives. They sit in silence for a long time, watching the sun dip below the vast horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues. The crickets begin their evening song. It is a moment of profound peace. Gideon, his voice a low rumble, finally breaks the silence, a soft, self-deprecating chuckle in his throat. "Gideon, I was a fool." Annelise turns to him, surprised. "Annelise, what do you mean?" "Gideon, that first day, in the schoolhouse, I stood there looking at you, and I told you I needed a wife to manage my home and bear strong sons for this ranch." He pauses, his gaze falling to her belly, then lifting to her face, his eyes filled with a love so deep it takes her breath away. He takes her hand in his calloused palm enveloping her slender, inky fingers. "Gideon, I was wrong. I thought I knew what I needed. I thought the ranch needed strong sons to live on. But the truth is, the ranch needed you. I needed you. The sons are a gift. But the greatest legacy isn't the land they'll inherit. It's the home you've made for us. It's the love you've given me. It's you. I just needed you." His words, so simple and honest, are more romantic than any flowery poetry. Annelise feels tears well in her eyes, not of sadness, but of a profound, heart-shattering joy. The deal, the cold, pragmatic agreement they had made in front of those wide-eyed children, has been completely undone, replaced by an unbreakable love that transcended all of their initial needs. She leans her head on his shoulder, her heart full, her search for a home finally over. The final shot is of them sitting together on the porch, a silent, loving tableau against the deepening twilight. The once lonely teacher has found her family, and the giant cowboy has found his heart. The narrator's voice, warm and gentle, delivers the final, poignant words. A man can build an empire with his hands, and a woman can bring order with her mind. But the greatest legacies, they found, are not carved into stone or written on a deed. They are built on the foundations of two lonely souls, coming together not out of need, but out of a shared, quiet love that turns a simple deal into a home and a future into a forever.